All right, welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Cameron Honesty, joined by my co-host, as always, Kenan Torres. We are obviously coming off of our recap show on Sunday, talking about A&M's 10-3 loss to Miami in the college football playoffs, first round of the playoffs. Obviously disappointing, but we've had a couple days. Yeah, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, almost 3 full days to kind of look over the film, look at who stood out, looking at the PFF scores, which really were telling, where the struggles came from. And like we were talking pre-show, I don't know if this game is really a good example of how A&M achieved everything they did this season. I think that it's very annoying personally to see some people write off their historic success, obviously winning 11 games and reaching 11-0 for the first time since I think that was 1992. Beating LSU on the road, beating Notre Dame on the road early in the season, winning 3 consecutive road games, and being that they lost 2 games in a row to tougher opponents, obviously Texas on the road, one of the better defenses, and then losing to a Miami defense filled with future NFL, potentially first-year contributors. I mean, they're loaded on that side of the ball. We could say obviously Marcel Reed struggled. There's some questions there. You and I probably, well, personally, I kind of regret some of the things I said because I've kind of thought about it again. Marcel has been unfairly treated, I think, this week, being that the wind and the weather that was affecting the game. Look, there were some of those throws. I think the ball just kind of flew away, and I think that the play that I've seen just circle around social media all day has been the pass to Casey Concepcion that kind of dropped. Obviously, if he would have hit him in the numbers, he would have had a ton of green grass in front of him. Most likely would have scored a touchdown, which who knows? A&M might have won the game after that. But look, things happen. It wasn't a great game for the redshirt sophomore, but we got to forge on, and we got to remember that this was his first full starting season. He's got a lot of football in front of him. He already said he's returning next year. We kind of debated if A&M needs to bring in a quarterback to maybe challenge him or just obviously add a depth piece, being that they're most likely going to lose a couple guys on what Miles O'Neill does, if he enters the portal or not. But either way, I mean, my biggest takeaway was look, it is what it is. I don't think they would have beaten Ohio State. I just don't think this team was good enough yet. But I think that Elko is really putting this program in a great spot to contend for the CFP every season that he's there. And it starts with obviously recruiting, which they signed another top 10 class for the 2026 cycle. And now we're all kind of waiting till the transfer opens and what he's going to do there. So overall, my biggest takeaway, the problems, they continued. They bubbled up. Obviously, the ones we saw against Texas, with the offense just not playing consistent football, and the run defense, which allowed back-to-back 150-plus rushers, which really did them in at the end. These are problems that can be solved, and one of the reasons I think they can be solved is the news that Elijah Robinson, which we kind of teased on Sunday, is back with the team. He is now the co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach. That is huge news, I think, for people who, especially Aggie fans, who kind of forgot, being that it feels like forever when Jimbo Fisher got fired after the 23 season. Elijah Robinson took over as the interim head coach and is still one of the best recruiters in the country and just well respected, loved by this program. And I think he's a perfect fit.
Yeah, he's definitely a perfect fit. I remember when he originally left to go be with he's one of his closest friends in head coach Fran Brown at Syracuse. We were all kind of sitting there going, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense, especially with the end of that season with Jimbo being fired. It was just all weird, right? We had the bowl game where Marcel Reed comes in for an injured Henderson and just kind of lights the world on fire out of nowhere for a kid who was planning on just not playing the entire season against a bad Oklahoma State defense. And we were going, well, we have Elko. We're fingers crossed. Everybody's hoping for Elijah Robinson to come back, but nobody knew if he was going to be offered the defensive coordinator job. We'd kind of wondered if Mike Elko at that time was just going to overhaul the entire staff. And for the most part, that's what he did. He brought a couple guys over from Duke, namely like Trooper Taylor was one of the main guys who's been electric for A&M the past 2 seasons. But Elijah Robinson takes a defensive coordinator job over at Syracuse. And after 2 years there, he kind of didn't work out. Syracuse was bottom 40 in total defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of made sense for Syracuse to go a different direction. They actually demoted him while elevating someone else to the co-DC position. We saw Elijah Robinson rumors to LSU, Nebraska, Penn State. But when A&M had heard that Elijah Robinson was back on the market, it kind of worked out because they also had heard that Sean Spencer was also looking. I believe his contract was going to be up with A&M at the end of the season, that he was going to return to be with one of his previous guys he's coached under before, in James Franklin. So it's kind of this weird reversal of things that kind of end up working out for that specific position. That Elijah Robinson, who knows this area, is an electric recruiter, and he is one of the best guys you will ever talk to. From a lot of people I've heard that they just love this guy, and it's clear to see why he's so respected. And all these other programs like Nebraska, LSU, Penn State, they were all after him as well. He's, I believe, in his time at A&M, besides the season where they went 5-7, they were always top 25 in rush defense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, which is a good sign.
To fact check me on that. I fact checked myself a couple of times, but
I think it's in that. I think it's in that realm. I think that because he was here from 2018.
I think 2018 to 2023
when he's left. Yeah.
They
were one of the better. The run defense. If we go back to the Kevin Sumlin years, yeah, okay. Those were probably the worst rush defenses we'd seen A&M have. Obviously, I think under Elko during his defensive coordinator years and then beyond with Elijah Robinson, that was never a big issue. It didn't ruin games like it did this season in a couple instances. So for that aspect, and that's what I kind of wrote with Aggies Wire, I just said, for those who are looking at his time at Syracuse and going, well, what are we doing here? Bad seasons happen. Sometimes Syracuse is a respectable football program, but it's not a football program where you're going to get elite recruits year in and year out. It depends. You need a Fran Brown. You need a coach like that to elevate that type of program. It's not an Alabama where you come and you just have to not screw up essentially because of the brand and because of the blue blood status. So he didn't have a ton to work with on that side of the ball, but overall, sometimes these bad seasons happen. I think getting back to College Station, like you said, somewhere he knows, he understands the landscape, and his recruiting ability never went away. And the fact that he's now back with A&M, where they have this status as being one of the best recruiting programs in the country,
and someone who's worked with Elko before.
Exactly. They have this very close bond, and New Jersey natives, both of them.
Exactly. So that in of itself, when you consider that he brought in Lyle Hemphill, who he's worked with for years prior, when you consider the fact that Trooper Taylor's still on staff, all of these guys, it's been a slow grind of getting here, but Elko now has guys who he has absolute synergy with in order to run a program the way he knows how. It's how he took over at Duke, turning them from 3-9 to a 9-3, 9-2 season. And that's where we are now. So really, really cool to see Elijah Robinson back. I'm sure in this kind of stacked 2027 class, you can go across the state of Texas for whatever guy, or even over to Georgia, California. There are just many, many guys along the defensive line that you can just say, hey, Elijah Robinson's going to have a relationship with each and every one of them.
Oh, Caden McCartney, one of A&M's. He loved it. I mean, you can we're in the age of social media. Obviously, these are young kids, and automatically when he was officially hired, I saw a couple of these guys, especially McCartney, just cheering the song because they love it. Because now I want to play for him. I want to play under this guy because I've seen what he's done. I've seen the relationships he's built, and I've seen what he's done for guys getting to the next level and playing in the NFL for a while. Because again, not for long league is real. Unless you are a Myles Garrett or Von Miller or somebody like that, you're probably not going to be in the league more than, I don't know what the stat is. I think it's like 5 or 6 years.
Something like that.
Something crazy like that. A lot of people don't see, but if you get a coach that's going to develop you and get you in that type of mold where you can last at the next level, that's the type of guy you want to play under. And I think that the only question mark in coaching is Holman Wiggins taking over as OC. And I do understand some of the fan apathy there. that he didn't go out and get an outside name like a Buster Faulkner, who's now with Florida, somebody who's produced these explosive offenses, especially with kind of lesser talent at quarterback. So I get why, it's kind of a wait and see thing here. But I don't like the narrative that he's going to be the same as Colin Klein. These are two different guys. Yes, they obviously work together. He was co-C under Klein. The thing about Colin Klein being, distracted during this game. Look, Marcel Reed didn't hit the throws. The plays weren't bad. So you can't really blame Colin Klein for that. Like, was he maybe distracted? Sure. But that's all over now. That's the great thing about it's not good that they lost, but at the same time, we're now in the offseason. Jay Bateman and Klein are now at their new jobs. And so we move on with this new staff. And so far, Cannon, I'm just very impressed. I'm very intrigued by how they're going to attack the portal with these guys. Getting a guy like Travis Williams, for example, who is coming in as a new linebackers coach, what he's going to do with maybe contacting some guys at Arkansas. There's one linebacker to pay attention to there. And especially Elijah Robinson. I mean, they need to get defensive linemen from the portal, and who's better to help in that than Robinson himself to start contacting guys as soon as this week going into the next month. So
yeah, we can jump the gun all we want.
Jump again on that.
But stuff like that where you are right, where it is so interesting where they go this year because of the season you had. So now you said, hey, we need defensive linemen. Because you're losing guys like Cassius Howell, Albert Regis, Tyler Onyeta. We'll talk about here in a little bit the leaving production on the table and who is hungry enough to step up or come in to take over that. It's all just so interesting right now. But one of the outcomes that happened this past season where you had major success in the portal was your wide receivers. And I think one of them is now seeing the fruits of that success right now in Casey Concepcion, where just yesterday he announced that he was actually going to declare for the draft. So Casey Concepcion right now is being mocked as a late first, early second. He's absolutely electric in any special teams environment, a guy who can take a 2-yard slant off of a slot receiver route, kind of make his own magic when it comes to having the ball in the open field and making his first man miss. We saw it a lot in that LSU game where he took a punt back for a touchdown, kind of lit up the Aggie sideline with how electric that play was. But this is a guy that if you are one of those teams in the later round of the first round of the NFL, you're going to need those playmakers on the offensive side because most of those teams that are up in that Super Bowl area playoff status, you already have your QB, you already have your probably main defensive lineman. So what are you really looking for there? You're looking for offensive and defensive playmakers. Casey Concepcion fits that bill. So we're really happy with how it worked out here. We knew that when he came in, he was looking to upgrade that draft stock. I mean, Cameron, I've talked about this guy with you for the past year plus. I love this guy. He is absolutely electric, and we're really happy with his time here as an Aggie.
Yeah, and again, great culture fit. Somebody who's going to be just an instant contributor. Somebody you don't have to worry about in the locker room as a rookie, getting adjusted. Probably a starting punt returner as soon as he gets selected, and just an absolute playmaker. I mean, A&M's offense would never have been as explosive without his playmaking ability. We obviously have to mention Mario Craver, who is coming back, who's going to benefit again from another season in this offense. Because, again, we don't believe Wiggins is going to be drastically different from what Colin Klein was doing. Maybe there's going to be some new wrinkles, but it's about getting the ball to your playmakers, similar to what we saw maybe during the historic 2020 season with Alabama. Wiggins was obviously a big part of that. But yeah, it's just awesome to see. I'm not shocked. Like, there was a small window there where he could have returned, but it just doesn't make sense for someone like him that has done everything he can. He had one of the best seasons in Texas A&M history this year. You can't really improve upon that unless you just go nuts the next season. You don't want to risk injury either. Like, there's only so many years, like we said, in the NFL. You want to get there as soon as you can. So just very proud of him as someone who covered him in and out, obviously coming here and then having the season he did. Congrats to him, I think, and congrats to his family. Like, everyone.
I mean, when we were talking about the first year, Holman Wiggins, this Colin Klein offense, what was the main thing we were talking about? It was separation from these wide
Yeah.
receivers that they weren't getting. Well, we saw some separation from KC. I mean, it looked like every other slant route, every move he made inside or outside, he was already 3 steps ahead of the DB covering him. So very, very cool to see where he ends up. I mean, I'm kind of rooting for a little bit of Buffalo. If anybody's interested, I feel like Buffalo is a nice place for him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just oh man, yeah, Josh Allen would love that. That's the thing.
Right?
I think any kind of running quarterback would love him. Obviously, you saw how, in play action with Marcel Reed this season, he was the #1 target. Very sneaky good in the red zone. Obviously, he's not the biggest target, but again, great hands. He's just too fast and too quick. I mean, nobody can really cover him. I mean, he's gone against some of the top corners this year in the SEC. Obviously, going against some obviously Miami's cornerback room, which there's a couple of NFL guys there. But nobody can really stop him. I mean, he was hampered, I think, by an injury in that game, which is the only way he really slowed down. So he does look like a low first-round pick to me. I could see him going really early in the second, but either way, this is also good for recruiting. This is good for the portal. Both him and Craver having the seasons they did, it is good in terms of recruiting through the portal, getting some of those top playmakers here saying, look, Marcel Reed struggled in these areas, but look where he thrived. Look at the play calling helped you guys get those big gains. And if you can separate, they're going to get you the ball. And but obviously Willie is another guy that we can get to. He declared on Monday afternoon. So that wasn't surprising. He's out of eligibility anyways. We knew he came back last year to kind of improve upon his draft status. And I think he's done that. He was always an NFL guy more than a college guy, if you know what I mean. Like, he just fits better in certain schemes. It kind of reminds me of Jalen Jones, who is now with Indianapolis, in a way, more of a boundary guy in certain schemes where you just have to be sticky on the outside and go one-on-one and man with that X receiver. And look, just play the ball. You're not moving around too much. You got to utilize your length and athleticism. And I think he's going to be great for whoever gets him. I think I could see right now probably a 3rd-round pick.
I was going to say middle day two.
Yeah.
I think depending on either the pro day or the combine, I think he's a middle day 3, late 3rd, early 4th. I mean, he's put up stats while he's been here. I mean, I think like 135 tackles.
Yeah.
24 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, 1 sack, and 2 forced fumbles. I mean, he's just been awesome the past 2 seasons. And coming from a guy who was very unheralded even before his time, before he got to Kansas State, this is an absolutely awesome story that we don't have enough time for today. But if A&M fans are watching and are interested, go look at his entire path to get here. It's really, really cool. I mean, obviously the storylines last year in the Missouri game where the blanket kind of emerged for Will Lee. Go look at those. It's just been an awesome story as well. So very happy for Will Lee and the entire path that he's had. So fills up the stat sheet. Absolutely could be a day 2 pick. But
and like you said, he tackles. NFL coaches love that. If you are a cornerback who tackles, you don't give up on the play. You're not kind of trying to get out of the way sometimes when a running back's coming at you because you don't want to get hurt. He's a really reliable defender, and he's a very hard worker. And he's somebody who obviously could have left last year, chose to come back to try to help A&M win, which he did, winning 11 games, going 11-1. At the end of the regular season was a big deal. Obviously, he was a big part of that. Did get thrown out a lot, did get targeted a lot as the #1 guy before Des Ricks kind of took over as one of the best performing cornerbacks. But he's done a lot. He has a ton of tape out there. So whoever's getting him is just going to get, I think, like a Jalen Jones type of sleeper player.
I think the one person I've been seeing him compared to is Maxwell Hairston.
Harrison's, I think, is a little faster. I would think he's more of a speed guy. A little bit.
What they're looking at is the height, weight, speed kind of comparisons when it comes to DBs. I think they're around the same size at 5'11", 6 foot.
Sure.
So on the shorter side, for how outside NFL DBs usually are, but guys who are going to excel at the ones where you're in the middle of press or drop coverage, where
Sure.
you're around 3 or 4 yards off of the
A
wide receiver.
discipline coverage guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Someone who's not going to, really someone who they're not really going to give up the big plays most of the time. They may give up a big catch here and there, but most of the time they're very reliable. And yeah, I think he is one of those guys. And again, it's the mentality that's being
Mhm.
coached by Mike Elko, who's obviously kind of a secondary specialist. So look, NFL guys have been watching A&M for a long time, especially under Elko. They're always going to get these type of defensive players that are very reliable, especially the rookie year. We see what Nick Scorton's doing this season as a rookie with the Panthers. Shamar Stewart, it's going to be a slow grind. I think it's mainly it's Cincinnati. It's just kind of a mess there.
He's been on IR for a little bit.
Yeah, so he's got. I think maybe if they have some coaching changes there, we'll see how his future. Where his future goes from there. But overall, I mean, this is why it's very easy to do Aggies in the NFL. A lot of them are thriving, and a lot of guys are just working hard. And I think it's just a culture here. I think the culture is getting better and better under this coaching staff. So we'll leave talking about the portal guys we like and targeting. It's very early right now. We're going to be doing a lot of that over the next month or so. Because we'll get some news going into January. Because I do think we're going to start hearing things pretty quickly once the portal window opens. So going back to how the roster is going to look, I did write something pretty quickly this afternoon, but wasn't too in depth because we've only had two guys officially leave. We've had two guys leave for the portal. In safety Jordan Pride and linebacker Tristan Jernigan. Not surprising. You actually said, I think he's either on the show or pre-show, you thought Jernigan was probably a name to watch there. And again, we see this every year, and it's kind of funny. Texas is dealing with that too. They just had DeAndre Moore enter the portal. They've had a couple other guys leave. They also had Hiro Kanu return. So it's that type of kind of the year when your team's out of the CFP, and these guys are just kind of mulling their futures. They're making a business decision. Jernigan especially, I get it. I remember his recruitment like it was yesterday, him playing the piano with Nick Saban, and then A&M just swooping into the final minutes to get him. And I always thought he was going to maybe thrive, maybe after but probably after 2 seasons. Just not the specific fit they need, but I still think he's a very skilled linebacker. I think he's going to find a home and probably going to earn a starting job in the near future. Pride's another guy. Played at IMG Academy, very skilled corner or safety. Did play wide receiver in high school. Is one of those versatile athletes. But again, another guy that's buried on a depth chart that we're thinking they're going to bring back Dalton Brooks, Marcus Radcliffe, who are going to most likely come back for their senior seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys like Miles Davis, Rashad Tom Johnson, who was injured most of the year, but very skilled. These are more kind of length guys, versatile guys, just a little more athletic than what Pride can do. And I think he's going to find a home pretty quickly. And
he was a previous Florida State commit, so could we?
Yes, that's a school to look for. He's a Florida native because he's from Blountstown, played at IMG. I think his last 2 years. So I think Florida schools specific, and especially the Seminoles, are a team to watch.
Wherever he goes, I would love to see him start because I think you and I agree that whenever we see A&M guys transfer,
they end up doing pretty well,
even if it is in bad blood. Sometimes I think we both really like to just watch them play at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And especially because we're invested in these players a lot of the time previously. So Jordan Pride, Tristan Jernigan, wherever they go, I do think
I can't wait to watch.
Especially 2 years in this program in strength conditioning. I think they're going to have a head start in wherever they do go. So best of luck to both of them. I think that it's kind of like, hey, you're just planning for the future, and this does happen now.
Yeah, but again, these are two names. This is kind of what the portal is, and when you're losing depth pieces like that, we talked pre-show, and my theory of what's going to happen going forward is that you are going to lose some guys that a lot of fans maybe really didn't know were on the roster. These are recruits that were kind of lower in the recruiting class, maybe a 4-star here, 4-star there, but someone who just didn't play at all. Jordan Pride, he made 1 appearance this year against Stanford, had 1 tackle. So nothing against him. Like, he could easily go and have a great career somewhere else. But for Texas A&M, there were just too many guys in front of him, guys coming in from guys elevated from the 25 class, guys coming in from the 26 class. We see, here's the thing. we don't know who's going to shine from the 2026 class. We know there's going to be guys at the bottom that aren't going to play. They're not going to see time. But someone like Brandon Arrington, for example, who just might be too good to keep off the field and could vie for maybe not a starting quarterback position, but someone who's going to come in as a rotation. Someone like Victor Singleton, who's very skilled. These are two guys who it is actually noteworthy that they are locked in with the program. Amid Jordan Peterson leaving as a defensive coordinator. We have so much news, we can't get through all of it. But obviously, Jordan Peterson is leaving to become the defensive coordinator for Kansas State.
A lot of news, man.
Yeah, it is. It's just oh my god.
I do want to say that Jordan Peterson leaving, for those who aren't familiar with Jordan Peterson, he's being viewed as one of like the smarter guys in like the defensive back coaching world. So that's why he's moving on up to be a defensive coordinator at Kansas State. He was integral in landing Brandon Arrington. I think he probably has the best relationship besides Mike Elko with Brandon Arrington. And so Brandon Arrington reaffirming his commitment amid all this coaching churn is absolutely massive for the program. I don't know.
Singleton did as well. So they both went on social media and did the same thing. Yeah.
So big stuff. I mean, we could talk all day about the coaching cycle, but in the fact that I think you're exactly right with Brandon Arrington trying to work his way onto the field at DB, especially with I believe every single one of these kids who signed is going to be here in January for offseason workouts.
I think one player. I think that's it. I honestly
think one player who's finishing up basketball is not going to
Evan Jacobson.
Evan Jacobson is not going to be here just because basketball is going on January, February, March.
But he's someone who's probably not going to see the field next season. He's really a guy they're going to try to develop. So that there are players in both, especially the 25 class, and that was kind of my point getting to that. With all these guys leaving, we kind of went through some of the names. Obviously, everybody hasn't announced their return yet. We're going to start hearing that, I believe, probably maybe this week, going into next week. I think kind of looking back at last year, I think we did hear it like trickle down. Will Lee was one of them who said he was returning last year. We had other couple guys announce their returns. Because of the transfer portal rules changing, we're not going to see anybody commit this early. But we are going to see big names enter, and so far only 2 for A&M. But I do believe that the strategy needs to be get the big names, as many as you can, to fill those key spots, especially on defense. I think getting Mario Craver back as the number 1 receiver is gigantic for this program, especially Marcel Reed. Obviously, you and I agree that getting that quarterbacks coach, whoever they hire, is the biggest deal for him, because we know he's most likely going to be the starter again. He's already returning, and getting somebody who's going to fix his mechanics and make him that full-time quarterback who's going to be reliable in tense situations against complex defenses where he has to make those tight throws. Having a quarterback coach that can fix those issues is key. The OC is calling the plays. That's important, but he's not serving as the QB coach like Colin Klein was. So if you can do that, then you don't have to focus too much on offense. The 2 names I am a little bit worried about, obviously Ashton Bethel-Roman, I believe, is coming back. I don't know why he would enter the transfer portal, to be honest with you. That wouldn't really make a lot of sense, being that he is an ascending name in the depth chart, especially with Casey leaving. I think he would be automatically the number 2 option. I think you look down the list, you look at guys like Terry Bussey, and I'd love to get your take on that. Like I think he's going to develop as a wide receiver one day. I think. I mean, we just haven't seen it. I think it's just early on, but could be somebody who's maybe looking at the situation and thinking maybe I need to look elsewhere to develop faster. I don't know, but I don't think so. It's just kind of one of those weird situations where they are stacked at wide receiver, knowing who's coming back. I'm blanking right now on the freshman 5-star.
Jerome Miles.
Thank you. God, I'm terrible sometimes. We believe he's going to be healthy going into the summer. Obviously, he got injured pretty early on, so hopefully his health stays consistent and he can end up being a contributor. But either way, having Craver as the number 1 option, I mean, I was looking some of the scout guys out there just salivating over his speed, because I mean, the camera couldn't even follow him on that long. I was thinking the 50-yard pass from Reed against Miami, and he's going to take that next step, and I'm very excited there. But getting those core pieces back, I kind of compare it to the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Right.
Because the Cowboys are kind of in a weird spot where they have to completely rebuild their defense. Obviously, they're probably going to move on from their defensive coordinator. So that side of the ball, they have to completely rebuild. But you got a guy like Ryan Flournoy, who's playing very well, and he looks like your number 3 guy. You re-sign George Pickens. And so now you have a 1, 2, 3. You don't have to worry about wide receiver, which for an offense that is really, really good when Dak's getting blocking and when the run game's working, you don't have to go in the offseason worrying about that. So for A&M, outside of fixing the tackle situation, maybe adding 2 tackles from the transfer portal, obviously Elijah Robinson, like we said, is going to be that impact guy, hopefully, of getting some of those veteran defensive linemen to come here from the portal. And I mean, best guys you can see. And I know there's a cornerback, because I think there is a cornerback you really like that you think A&M should target, because we know obviously Will Lee's leaving. Des Ricks is, I mean, I can almost guarantee he's going to be the number 1 guy next year. And then there's just some names, right, were around him, some guys, that we're not really sure who's going to pan out. Obviously, Julio Humphreys, one of those guys who we think would probably be elevated in the depth chart. Aaron, they're going to watch, but
I think you definitely need to target an outside guy, because I think you're going to have the guys at nickel, whether that's Jordan Shaw or whether that's going to be a Jamar Beal-Goins backing him up as well. Because A&M is very, very picky when it comes to recruiting specifically nickel cornerbacks. You saw it when they went into Desert Edge and landed Cameron Hamil this year. I think that they are one of the specific teams that specifically recruits nickel. And it shows. I mean, that's the main reason why Cameron Hamil committed to Texas A&M, is that Mike Elko and the defensive staff wanted him specifically as a nickel. And that's not something a lot of other teams do for the most part. They just want to take these DBs and place them in a spot. I know a lot of other teams are getting very, very wise about doing that now. But A&M was one of these first teams, because Elko loves to have a nickel defense. So especially when it comes to like a 4-2-5 set, we saw Torian York, Scooby Williams being those 2 linebackers and play like that. But there are a couple names, like you said, in the transfer portal, or who are expected to enter January 2nd, I should say. But there are guys that, even as I'm looking now, it's like you got guys entering today like A.J. Harris from Penn State, who kind of took a little step back from his time or his first year at Penn State, but now is expected to enter the portal as a guy who
kind of like Humphrey, right? Someone like Humphrey, right?
A little bit. Because he came into a Georgia program that had Kelly Ringo leaving, so he had to kind of step into those shoes. And it's hard to fill in like for a guy like Kelly Ringo, and ended up getting outplayed a little bit. And going up to Penn State, where that first year they kept it pretty close with teams like Ohio State. I think A.J. Harris had a pick 6 against Ohio State. So I think a guy like him is really, really nice on the outside if you wanted to. I think a guy like Jabril Rawls from Florida State makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is a 6'2" corner who has shown some very good flashes in his time at Florida State, especially from building himself up from a low 3-star recruit up to now, where he's put up a lot of pass breakups so far with the Seminoles. You could go down the list with all these transfer guys right now.
There's going to be more coming out soon, because
absolutely,
we'll get a complete list. But no, you are right. I mean, they have a type, and Jamil Goins, he was one of the rising prospects. So he went from a 3-star to, I mean, I thought he was going to become a 5-star at one point just because of his elite speed, and he is a perfect fit in what they want to do. I could see him being a rotational guy next season, because Elko wants to play man. Like, he just wants to play man defense. If he can't play man defense, it kind of screws up his pass rush. It's a whole thing of how he wants to call plays. And if you don't have the right players for that scheme, it's just not going to look good. And I think that was kind of the problem this year. But one of the biggest names did enter today, Auburn linebacker Robert Woodyard. He is going to be pursued by everybody. I mean, this is a guy who was first team All SEC by PFF. He had 67 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, played 433 snaps this year. Just a productive backer. They've had problems at linebacker, which is a very sneaky issue they've had. We talk about the run fit issues. That starts at linebacker. Yes, defensive tackles can get beat off the ball and they just get out blocked, but you got to fill those gaps. And even Torrin York, who per PFF had a pretty decent day, he actually had a pretty good tackling score. He was one of the problems there. And this can't keep happening year after year. I do think they're going to solve this problem, but I think you and I agree. It is a personnel issue. They need to get some new guys in here. Obviously, we don't expect Scooby Williams to return. He has the possibility, we talked about pre-show, to possibly come back for one more season, but we'll monitor that, obviously. But I just think they need more players in here, bigger guys and bigger linebackers who have a history of stopping the run and being physical against the run. Because if you can't do that, you can't do anything. Because I guarantee next season, if they don't change the personnel up, teams are going to just run at them, and they think they can. And they're going to watch last year's film, especially Texas and Miami. And credit to Mark Fletcher. He's an excellent back.
He's been awesome, man.
Weisner is a good back, not someone I would say is an excellent back. So the fact that Weisner did that to you, I think maybe he's just got A&M's number at this point. So I don't know.
That happens. We've seen like that before. Just tear him up. Quinshon Judkins was a guy that just completely tore A&M up.
Well, but that is Quinshon Judkins. So
all I'm saying is they could end up being the same type of player.
No, I know. I just think that is an area they need to fix. Obviously, you need to get defensive line help just to fill the roster up. But that is a position. If there is a guy like Woodyard, you at least contact him. You see what he's asking for. Obviously, that's probably going to be a big number. You don't know if you want to spend that. We talked about that a little bit in terms of the strategy there. Do you want to get two really good players, or do you want to get one elite player and pay out the what for him? We don't know. That's the thing that Elko, because I think, how many players do you think they need to actually add from the portal? That's actually a better question.
Yeah, I think that has to start with how many players are you expected to have gone?
Yeah.
And I think that's a better question to start with. So let's look at this holistically. Maybe it is Elko and the staff right now making their evaluations, seeing, hey, who are we going to have in this program for the next 1/2 seasons?
Yeah.
I think that's what they're looking at right now. And I think when you look at it like that, you're probably looking, on top of Jordan Pride and Tristan Jernigan, maybe at 7 or 8 more people, I would say, is what is realistically going to happen because of either playing time or whatever other things come up. So after that, you bring in a freshman class of 29 kids, right, as of right now. So 29 freshmen, and so those are going to be your future. So where are you going to backfill the talent that you lose with Cassius Howell, with guys like Trey Zune, with guys like Le'Veon Moss? Who knows if they're even going to go after a running back, because this was one of those deeper running back rooms going into the season with guys like Amari Daniels, EJ Smith, and Le'Veon Moss in there. I think they do need to go after one guy in the RB room, just because I know they like their depth. But most of this is going to be, hey, I think we get 8 big guys, just 8 names, I think is where you go. If you're feeling like you need more depth rather than those big names, then maybe you go 12 guys.
Yeah.
It's just
what you trust. Yeah. And I know you're perfectly, that you said that perfectly, because I'm thinking of guys like Marco Jones and Noah McHale, right? Yes. Those are the first 2 names I kind of think of. Noah McHale was a 4-star linebacker in the 25 class who A&M landed over Oregon. Oregon went hard after this kid, and Oregon has had some of the best defenses. They've had very good linebacker play over the years, so I'm not surprised. He did play a little bit this season. I think Elko kind of put him in, even in situations in close games.
He did. He played in this past game. He played in a playoff game.
Yeah, just to get some change there when they were kind of struggling against the run. So that is the big question, right? Is he a guy who's going to earn a starting spot next year? Is he ready for that? And if he is, that's great, right? You don't have to worry about that. I still think you have to get another linebacker, but at the same time, if you got another guy that you can depend on I guess he's a sophomore technically. I think he will be a sophomore because he's in redshirt.
Yes.
Probably, yeah. So if you can depend on that, fantastic. Marco Jones, another guy. Cassius Howe's gone. You knew that was happening anyways because he's running out of eligibility. He just had a unanimous All-American season. Marco Jones was a guy that all of us, I mean, every single Aggie beat writer, you and I, everybody in Aggie media had been talking about, even going back to last season. We saw some flashes this year. Is he ready to take that next step? If he is, then do you have to go get another edge? Probably. But at the same time, you have a guy that you feel is ascending and could end up being that replacement for Cassius Howe. But that is risky, right? Because Cassius Howe had really one productive season at Bowling Green. He had a starting season in 24. He was technically a starter. I think he was at the jack position.
He was a starter. He was just on the opposite side of Nick Skirton, Shamar Stewart, and Shamar Turner.
So he has that
defensive line already, but was kind of overshadowed by the other guys.
Yeah, and I'd have to look back. It's kind of like, kind of like Marco Jones right now. I have to look back how many snaps he actually played. But with how they would use him, he is a pure pass rusher. Because of his size differential, his pass rush moves, using him in twists and stunts, getting him against the lesser offensive linemen. That's the type of guy that the program is going to be excited about, but they're also hoping that he takes that next step, which we will see in spring. And so I agree with you. I think it's about 8 guys, and I think it's 8 stars. I think it's guys who you believe are going to be immediate contributors, because I was one of the people, I don't think I influenced anybody, but I kind of was one of the first ones to say, hey, A&M, take a look at Tyler Odiadam. And they ended up looking at Tyler Odiadam. And they ended up signing
Homer, you.
Yeah. And look, whatever. But so I'm not saying I influenced anybody, but I did see him as one of those immediate impact guys. So you need to go that route this season, because look, we're talking about, you just went to a CFP. You knew you were losing these guys anyways. You knew you were returning an O-line with all these starters, with all this experience, and they were going to leave because of either the NFL or just expired eligibility. So you've had to prepare for this anyways. I guarantee Elko, this has been in the back of his mind for a while, going, okay, however far we get in the CFP, maybe we can't get far. Maybe we're just a quarter. I mean, coaches do think in that realistic way. They're never going to tell you that. And then we have to start hitting the ground running to fix these issues, get these players. So he's got a list, I guarantee, of players he's going to be looking at and contacting, but they're still coming in. Like Woodward was today. There's going to be some bigger names. I think we talked about Cam Coleman at Auburn is someone to monitor.
I don't know, man.
But maybe, right? Because Alex Golesh is there. He is an offensive coach. I think he could get the best out of Cam Coleman. So that is obviously another.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think Alex Golesh, when he was the offensive coordinator of Tennessee, also recruited Cam Coleman.
Yeah. So there's probably a prior relationship there. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question on construction for this next season?
Yeah.
So I was having this discussion earlier today, and we both know that they're going to go off after offensive and defensive linemen. So that's a given. Because you're losing guys like Casey Concepcion on the offensive wide receiver side and Le'Veon Moss in the running back room, which one do you think is more important to get in the portal? If you had to choose one that you had to, it's a very close question, right?
Yeah, it is, because
where are you leaning?
I think it's running back. I think it's running back because of how much I believe in Mario Craver to be that star number one go-to option for Marcel Reed. I think they already have a prior connection there. Obviously, early in the season, what they did against Notre Dame, and then getting those other guys back, like Ashton Bethel-Roman, possibly Isaiah Williams is another name that I'm very interested in to see where he can go, because I think he is very skilled, and I think he is a perfect fit in what they're doing, especially if he takes that next step. Mm-hmm. So wide receiver, I'm not very worried about. I know there's a lot of people who are looking at Casey leaving and going, oh, man, we have to go out and get a wide receiver. I don't know, because I really believe in Ashton Bethel-Roman a lot. I think he is a star in the making, and he's one of the tougher guys. I mean, that first down he got on Miami, just physical. I mean, physical, moving his way to get the first down marker. That's the type of player who's going to be even better next season, in my belief. So I think, and again, Mike Elko said it after the game, line of scrimmage issues. You are losing a Le'Veon Moss who sadly we never really got to see take that next step in his career, right? Because of injuries, and it just sucks. And I hope that doesn't hinder his NFL future. But at the same time, having a guy like that and having a physical O-line, and we talked about obviously some of the portal names to watch, Karius Kern, Cohen Eccles, who have both entered the transfer portal from LSU, two big, one a former Aggie commit in Cohen Eccles, Karius Kern, who I think is a work in progress. He's just young, but he's a big tackle and somebody who, if he's working under a guy like Adam Cushing, I think he'd improve in both areas. But you need to improve this rushing attack. The run blocking has been average at best this season and late in the year, because they did end the season averaging like 192 on the ground or something
like that. It was just under 200 yards a game.
Yeah, it just tapered off when they were playing better defenses. So,
and the amount of people that I don't think, because we didn't see him a lot.
Yeah.
I do believe that Le'Veon Moss is your best offensive player this past season.
Oh yeah, healthy, yeah. Oh, and he's the most impactful, right? Because and that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people kind of realize that, because if you get a healthy Le'Veon Moss throughout this season, let's say that injury against Florida doesn't happen, and he's healthy throughout the rest of the season, I believe A&M finishes 12-0. I think their identity is basically we run the ball, we play action with Marcel Reed, we utilize our athletes, we trust our defense when we get a lead. That's what made this team so intriguing late in the season, and that's why we were talking about them making a run in the CFP. That identity just went away, right? You had even ones kind of slipping a couple times. Your rotation was really wonky. Your run blocking really, like I said, it tapered off. It wasn't looking great. Really, you were just kind of a pass protecting team, and Marcel Reed was having to drop back more than he wanted to, and he was making mistakes, right? So you went away from that identity, and I just think Mike Elko's I think his thought process, we've invested so much in this O-line, right? We've been recruiting at a high level. We've been getting these great prospects that we think we can develop. But because we're losing Zune and Demetrius Crownover and Omaj Reed Adams, we do need to focus there and get guys that we trust can come in here, either start right away or be immediate rotational guys, because they do have, like we said, guys like Lamont Rogers, guys like Ashton Funk, like Ivy, who they do believe in, guys like Robert Burden, who could end up being a starter. So they have depth there, but he wants a solid starting unit and a solid backup unit. And if you have that, you need a star back. And I think that Ruben Owens can be that guy, but I just see him more of as a number 2 right now. That's the thing. I'm not on the staff.
We both are.
Yeah, I don't know what their thinking is with Ruben Owens, because if you graded his season, it's obviously better than anything he's done because he was healthy. He took over as the number 1 guy when Moss went down. He looked the part against Missouri. He had those 2 touchdowns. But at the same time, he's not a Le'Veon Moss yet, right? And if there is a guy like that in the portal that you see as somebody who can come in, not just make any immediate impact, but fit with what the scheme, and kind of be like, again, I hate using Cowboy reference all the time, be that Javonte Williams type of player for you, then you are going to get back to that balanced offense. You are going to be able to control games, especially if you've fixed your defense and gotten guys in here. So to answer your question after like 10 minutes of talking, that's who I would choose, because I just think wide receiver is okay. If they want to go add an X, both agree, getting a bigger wide receiver so you can kind of spread your offense out. You can give Marcel Reed a bigger target on the boundary. That'd be great, right? There are going to be guys out there. The kid from San Jose State, who everybody's going to be after.
He's 5'9" though.
Yeah,
and
he's not. But see, that's the thing, right? The guys who have entered, they're not going to be the big names. They're going to be the speed guys. We talk about someone like Jace Brown, who you told me before the show, obviously a little bit of news there that he did visit Texas A&M this past weekend, right? During this week game. What is he measured at? He's about 5'10", 5'11".
Jace Brown is measured as 6'1".
So he is 6'1". Okay. So
Jace Brown, wide receiver for Kansas State.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of stuff. He's when he entered the portal, it was kind of like, head turner. Like, here could be a guy that comes in and replaces KC. I think people made the connection last year if he had entered because of the connection with Colin Klein. Obviously, with Klein going back, that you can't make that connection now. But Jace Brown is in the portal again. I think that A&M would be a likely destination should he become available more after January 2nd when the portal opens up. He's been a playmaker for Kansas State, and they've kind of been running the same style of offense Colin Klein has. We've over there even after he left. Jace Brown even took a lot of shots at Wildcat this past season, where I think it was even in the game against Utah, which high scoring, over 100 points scored in that game, over I think just under 1,000 yards of total offense from both sides. Just offensive playmakers in general. Yeah. So I don't think that you'd be wrong in going after a guy like Jace Brown. I'm a big fan of a guy like Malcolm Simmons from Auburn. Yeah. I think that's a person who,
I think that's a better one, right? It depends what it costs, right?
Connection with him previously.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and I think it's a cost thing too. I think it's, like we said, are you going to get the guy who costs a little less that you think is going to be a perfect fit with? Because that's the thing, right? That's my strategy at wide receiver. You've got a star. You've got a guy you think is a star. You've got a couple other guys that are kind of moving up a little bit, getting better. And then if you add one more piece in there that isn't somebody who you're going to have to rely on play after play, but is a good fit, adds some separation, some speed, so maybe some downfield type of ability, then yeah, that's perfect, right? And that's why both those guys are big names to watch. I will give you a name here that did enter, and you quickly went on X and talked about him, was Javonte Barnes from Oklahoma. Again, these are the 1,469 yards and 13 touchdowns with Oklahoma. I've watched him a couple times. Very good back, very skilled.
I've watched him a lot, man, and I think
that's so tell me, that's the thing. I haven't watched him as much. I know you've watched him a little more. So do you think that is the type of player that they should probably take a flyer on?
I think so. I think you want what you're losing in Le'Veon. I think you want more of that bruiser that is able to absorb that first hit off of the defensive line and take it another 2 or 3 more yards. Yeah. That's kind of the guy you want. Javonte Barnes had a stellar freshman season at Oklahoma, and then it kind of tapered out, whether it was injury or other people coming in, like a Taylor Tatum who came in for them. It was really more of a product of the entire running back room at Oklahoma and the offensive miscues they had last season. They haven't been able to rush this year. I mean, they brought in a running back from Cal, Jaden Ott, who was one of the more heralded players in the portal, and Oklahoma wasn't able to rush the ball correctly for one way or another. I think there are a lot of other names of guys in the portal right now, especially when I go back and look at offers that A&M has had in the past. I'm very biased towards CJ Baxter, but that's just me. Yeah, I absolutely love that kid. I think he's a playmaker.
Yeah.
I think a guy like Peyton Lewis, who entered from Tennessee, is an absolute bruising running back. But I don't think he was ever offered by A&M out of high school. But yeah, there are guys in there right now who you could immediately bring in and say, okay, we have a full running back room again. You're leaning on guys now developing with Jamarian Moore and Tiger Ryden, who we saw in the Samford game. It was like, hey, he brushed off the first tackle pretty much every time.
Yeah.
It was very much
hard, right?
He's more of that bruiser.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. It's difficult because you've seen flashes from all these guys.
It's also going to be hard to leave KJ Edwards off the field.
Yeah. So I'm glad we got to that. I really want to get your take on that because I've written about it a couple of times. I'm going to write about it obviously more in the new year. But that kid is just unbelievable. Like these high school recruits, I was talking to somebody about it. I said, man, even back in my playing days and my years, I mean, look, you'd have some of these players that were like immediate contributors when we went to college, but most of the time they were sitting 2 years at most, then getting on the field their junior. That's just how it was. I mean, this kid's just ready to play now. I mean, I don't see him sitting or being a part, like fourth on the rotation. I think he's going to just right out of the gate. They're going to see that explosiveness. They're going to see that versatility as a pass catcher. They're going to see just that maturity. He's a champion. He's a high school champion. They've had a couple guys who won their high school championships this year in the 26 class, and I think in the 27 class. But it's going to be difficult, right? And that's why this running back situation in the portal is not easy, because yes, you are losing 3 guys, but at the same time, we talked about Tiger Rudd and we talked about Jamari Moore, who we've seen play this year, who we were all very intrigued by, thinking maybe this kid could be the starter next year. But at the same time, he's not a Le'Veon Moss. Ruben Owens isn't a Le'Veon Moss. He's his own type of player. And so do you need one of those guys? And so, but with KJ Edwards coming in, you risk the whole wait and see thing, right? You kind of risk that, because if you are trying to depend on a freshman and then the rest of your depth, that is very risky, especially if there is a player that enters the portal. CJ Baxter is interesting to me because I think that the O-line issues that Texas had really killed him. It
was really a product of what happened.
He's very talented, right? And he's one of the guys, because they did miss out on Ruben. They were the same recruiting class, right?
They were the exact same. That's why I say that, is because when Texas missed out on Ruben,
they went after Baxter.
It's Baxter, and Texas has had success in Florida before getting running backs out of there. So it's just one of those guys where it's like, hey, you offered him out of high school. He needs a second chance after an injury. And
you just load up on those talent backs that you're not 100% sure on, because he's still a question mark of how good he'll be, especially in your system.
Coming off of injury too, I think
exactly right. Yeah,
helpful.
That was the risk with Owens too when he was coming off of injury, but obviously he looked spry, he looked ready. It's just, and here's the thing, I'm not so worried about it. I'm more worried about the O-line getting fixed,
absolutely,
getting better, because I think if you open holes, I get Owens slipped a lot. I just think it's funny. Every time I talk about him slipping, I'm like, I can't believe we have to talk about running back slipping. It's just kind of dumb. But he did slip a couple times at Texas. I think people got worried about that. But the blocking just wasn't good enough at the end of the year, and especially against Miami, whereas Miami was just, when Cristobal just figured out, just run the ball in I formation with Mark Fletcher, because they're not going to stop it. A&M needs to be that type of team. You can be that type of team, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to get back to the CFP, and you're going to make a deeper run than you did this year. So that focus is smart. It's just, you're not going to see what KJ Edwards can do probably, until the spring, really. This is the good thing, right? That, when we were on Le'Veon Moss watch throughout the entire offseason, we're like, oh, is he healthy? Can he actually come back from that? Like, how bad was it? Did he actually tear that? Well, look, he's gone. I really hope that he has a good pro career. It sucks. But it was good to hear that Mike Goka said he's going to be healthy in the offseason before he potentially goes to the most likely Texas A&M's pro day. But they don't have to worry about injury issues at running back right now, right? Guys are all healthy, leaving the season. Nobody's going into the spring with injuries. Everybody's healthy for the most part. So that is a plus. So my theory is that they're just going to trust what they have, unless they do feel like Baxter is a guy that they just want to bring in to just stack that room and have a ton of options and hope he pans out. Or if there is a veteran back that they really believe in that's at a ton of production, that they think is just one of those hard-nosed physical runners that if your O-line is fixed, he can be that change maker. If those guys come out, then we'll see. But at the same time, we'll really learn about what their transfer strategy is by this time next. Actually, a couple of weeks, to be honest with you, because it does open on the 2nd. So
January 2nd is what, next Friday?
Yeah,
Friday.
I think we're going to hear some news drops pretty quickly, because we all know that tampering is just normal now. It just happens. Like everybody does.
It's just more public.
It is, and they don't really care. And to be honest, neither do we. If you still care about that, you're in the wrong business. But they're talking to guys already. I guarantee that there are potential visits lined up. There are things getting in the motion. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this for a while. We're going to probably be talking about this next Tuesday, to be honest, because we might get some more news coming out. But before we do leave, get your take. I was actually watching the volleyball. Obviously, congrats to the ladies for winning the national championship. We could spend the entire show. I've been talking about it now with family and kind of explaining everything and just doing all the content with it. Jamie Morrison is a stud, one of the best coaches A&M has ever hired. They just landed 2 elite transfer portal additions from Ohio State and Marquette. This team could be pretty good even next year, even though they're losing 9 seniors. But what a story with Kendall Stowers. Ledecky is a beast. I mean, this team is just incredible. I hadn't had more. Ledecky, yeah. Lednicky.
Did you just name a,
I know,
Olympic swimmer?
Look, man, I screw up names all the time. I screw up so many names, but
hey, I'm here for the swimmers, man.
Yeah. It's an old school reference, but just the story has been insane. And the fact that Morrison did this with no college experience, obviously coaching under the greatest coaches of all time during his Olympics days, but just a pro's pro. And the fact that he's still A&M now has that title to use for every future volleyball player to say, you come here, we're most likely going to win another one at this point because you invest in this program, you take your time, you're a culture fit, and you're skilled. Look what we did. Look what we beat Nebraska, one of the greatest volleyball teams we'd seen in a while. I mean, the shock and awe of them beating them, beating Pitt, beating a Kentucky team that beat you earlier in the season 3-1.
Reverse sweeping Louisville.
Yeah. Oh no, and the reverse sweep to Louisville to get to Nebraska, who you beat in 5 sets, and then sweeping number 1 Pitt and number 1 Kentucky. So just one of the most historic runs I've ever covered in my life. Maybe probably the most historic, unless the football team just goes in some magical run. I mean, we'll see. But or obviously Buck McMillan, I still believe that will happen one day. But just congrats to them. I just, and we love talking about them. And even Aggies Wire, we're doing more coverage of this team because they deserve it. And the people are loving it. So any recruiting updates or any transfer auditions, we got you covered on the volleyball. And so
100%.
And we'll talk about him even here, especially if there's any news to drop. But I was going to ask you, because I was obviously so immersed in I did miss the basketball game. I did see some of the highlights. What were your general takeaways from their big win over East Texas?
Another quad 4 thrashing.
Yeah.
I think East
which
Texas
is underrated, which is good, right? Especially late in the season.
East Texas A&M, what they did very, very well is getting up in the grill of these guards very, very early. And they made it pretty hard on them to try and get past them for the most part. And it just so happened that A&M's guards were able to go in. Marcus Hill was incredible at getting to the rim and out physicaling the person that was guarding him. East Texas A&M, they just had a tough time on the offensive side themselves, besides a couple of tough offensive boards. Just shots were not falling necessarily. I think that when you have a game like this, especially when you're gearing up towards the holidays and then opening up against LSU and even having
a little trouble, by the way.
They were in a little bit of trouble against Prairie View A&M, who in the first half was 10 for 13 from 3 against LSU, and LSU ended up putting up 100 burger on them. You're going to have these games where you need a thrashing in order for your entire team to be on the same page. Because we saw it in the previous regime that these quad 4 wins were not thrashings, but were more of, hey, it's another W on the resume. Doesn't matter how big or small you won it by. And with that comes the mentality, at least in the previous regime, of you're going to lose some of those games. I remember getting 30 balled by Jackson Pavletsky from Wofford.
Was that 22?
It was 22. And
that was my first. So that was my first season covering A&M with you. I remember that.
And guess what? Jackson Pavletsky is a 22-point per game scorer at Ohio right now.
Yeah.
So
I just remember that game as
keep up with these things, guys. I keep up with these things.
Yeah.
But I think that when you're going against Prairie View A&M this next Monday after Christmas, after everybody's kind of had their time to settle down with their families and look forward towards this SEC slate coming up, where it's going to be brutal each week and each week, where you're working towards a goal of getting to the tournament. You need these things on your resume, even if it is another thrashing of a quad 4 team. So it's looking up and up. Again, we're talking about a year one head coach of a basketball team that has needed a little bit of a reset for a couple years now. So, pretty happy with what I saw. It was awesome to have a free event for a lot of families that were able to come in. I mean, I was overwhelmed by how many people actually were able to make it out.
Well, it's exciting, right? It's just exciting basketball.
It's
That's
exciting
You're going to get scoring. That's what people want. So,
and it was just one of those days where if like I had to pick to go again, I would do it. And I think speaking of like picks and stuff and just kind of props to players and stuff like that, I think that that's probably the way we end the show, right? Is we talk about our sponsor, Underdog. I think that it's probably the best place to have those picks.
You know what we can talk about, even though A&M's out, is some of the matchups in the quarterfinal round of the CFP.
Yeah, I mean,
my favorite right now is Ohio State and Miami. Obviously, A&M would have played Ohio State. So after beating A&M 10-3 in that barn burner, you'd have to tell me what Underdog is, but I think the general consensus is a 9.5-point favorite. Ohio State.
So I've seen a little bit of fluctuation, even is down to 7.5, but I think 9.5 is where it's at in favor of Ohio State.
Yeah, and you know what? Interesting matchup, right? Because I think Miami's defensive line, which really kind of broke down A&M's offensive line at the end of the game, really made an impact. But Messidor, obviously Ruben Bain, had big impacts with 7 sacks total. How are they going to look against Ohio State's O-line? Is Ohio State's defense just too good to let Carson Beck, who really didn't do much at all, that's for 108 yards, which is a very... This is why I did right that Marcel Reed's getting a little too much flack, because he had a better game than Carson Beck, who's nobody's talking about that. But can be very interesting because could it be low scoring? Maybe. But I do think Ohio State's defense is just too good, and I think their wide receiver rotation is just too elite.
It's disgusting. And
it is disgusting.
I'm going to second that, but I think one game people need to watch out for is actually tomorrow, Christmas Eve. You got the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl, California and Hawaii. I mean, come on, man. Who doesn't?
I know. I always enjoy the Hawaii Bowl. I
love a good Hawaii Bowl, man. I mean, make bowl games great again.
I agree. I mean, I hate this conversation that everybody's having, like, you know what, bowl games don't matter. So go tell that to all the other teams that don't win 11 or 12 games and even the ones who do and don't get into the CFP with the current structure. What do you want them to do? Do what Notre Dame did and pout and go, we're too good, we're going to stay home. No. Okay. It's just stupid. You know what? I guarantee if you asked Washington what it felt like to beat Boise State 38-10, I bet they'd say it was freaking fantastic. We loved it. We won the bucked up LA Bowl and it rocked. Like that's just gonna happen.
You tell those teams, hey, it just feels good to be there and get a win. Tell you what, tell those teams as well that if you play $5 on Underdog and use our code VOCFB Aggies, you actually get $50 straight credited to your account immediately. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. You just play 5, you get 50. So, again, use the code VOCFB Aggies if you want to do that. Supports us, supports Underdog. It's all in good fun.
And as always, if you have a gambling problem, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, that's all we have today. And Ken will probably kind of retweet this video. We'll have this out pretty quickly. That we'll have kind of all the cut ups throughout the week. Because we did talk about a lot. I mean, we're going to be talking about this throughout the off season. We will obviously put some basketball in there every once in a while, especially when they start SEC play, which I'm actually very excited for. Because one of the reasons I did like to end with basketball was if this team's putting up these type of points against, these quad 4 opponents, and they're just looking like more of a team, more efficient. They're playing well together. They have an identity. And I'm watching Auburn and some of the other SEC programs that I'm not that impressed with. Vanderbilt's really good. Alabama's really good. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some top teams that are going to be very, very tough. It's going to be a back and forth battle. But right now, they're kind of sneaky, right? That's kind of how I look at A&M. They're sneaky, they're intriguing, and they're going to be fun to watch finally, because we didn't really know, right? We were kind of, especially after that Oklahoma State game, this team just did not have an identity. They didn't know how to play together at all. It was a very weird game compared to what we've seen now. losing to UCF the way they did. That was another building block of we need to finish, kind of like the Aggie football team. But they got a long season ahead, and Bucky McMillan, kind of like Jamie Morrison. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. That's what's impressive to me, right? Because I kind of get the same vibes from both these guys, right? And A&M could not have hired better coaches in that area. So along with Trisha Ford and obviously Mike Elko, the coaches right now at A&M, Mike Early's still kind of out. Well, I mean, he's got a lot to prove, but he's got a lot to prove. But most of these coaches are just, I mean, you couldn't ask for better ones right now. So Texas A&M athletics is in a good place right now, and we're blessed to be at Christmas time and the holiday season. We're very blessed to be covering them professionally. I especially am. So yeah, everybody. I hope everybody has a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Obviously, we're 2 days out from the greatest holiday ever, and
yeah, college football playoff. Duh.
Yeah, I know. Indiana. I can't wait. I want to see Fernando Mendoza actually live up to that Heisman hype, and
I'm a fan.
We've seen some Heisman winners. I'm trying to think back. Have they failed in the CFP recently, or we had any that actually were in the CFP? That's actually a good question.
It's been a topic of conversation before. I mean, do you think Caleb Williams would trade his Heisman for a spot in the college football playoff?
Yes.
I think that's
at this point, the way he plays with Chicago, yeah. I think he's a team guy. I don't think he cares about the personal accolades. I think it's nice to have, but at the same time, what's kind of funny about Fernando Mendoza is I think the only way they're going to win a championship is running the ball, which they've had like multiple 300-yard running games. It's kind of a sneaky stat for them.
They're a very good rushing team.
They are. So, but yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday. Obviously, we will most likely have a lot more news coming up. Possibly coaching news. Possibly
I'm going to expect more coaching news.
Yeah, possibly hiring a quarterbacks coach. We hear different things all the time. I think there's just a ton of intriguing names out there. I haven't heard anything close to something being finalized yet, kind of like we did with Elijah Robinson. But I'm telling you, that's going to be the coach hire that really makes or breaks Marcel Reed going to next season. Because I think if they get the right hire and we do a good job of explaining to fans who he is, how he's going to help Reed, then I think, things are going to, get a little better. And I think people will kind of go, okay, well, I'm okay now, because there's one camp here, there's one camp here really regarding Reed. And I get it, but at the same time, rewatching that game, rewatching that film, I feel a little better. I think it's gonna be a different looking offense next year, and I think it's gonna be more orientated to his strengths and what he can do. So, all right, but all right, guys, everybody enjoy your Christmas or any holiday you're celebrating, and we'll be back next Tuesday.